America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Today is Monday, March 1st, 2021. The time being 5 p.m., the meeting of the Greensburg Board of Works is called to order at this time. Please silence your electronic devices. To comply with Title VI of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, the city requests that participants in this meeting complete a voluntary anonymous survey that is available on the table in the back of the room. Before Brenda calls the roll, I will remind everyone, please speak into your microphones loudly and clearly, please. That helps with the recording that Kristen is doing, also everybody in attendance. Roll call, please, Brenda.
Jamie Kane.
Here.
Karen Rust.
Here.
Rodney King.
Here.
Glenn Tebby.
Here.
Okay, you should have all received a copy of the minutes for February 1st, 2021. Any additions, edits, or corrections to those? If not, we'll take a motion to approve as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been made by Jamie, seconded by Dee. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? There being no old business, we'll move directly to new business. At first, Brian Wenning with St. Mary's requesting road closures for the On EaglesWings 5K.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Evening.
We are requesting, I hope you do have a map. I think Kristen emailed everybody a map. So we are requesting these roads closed on Saturday, August 28th, approximately from 8 o'clock till 11, around that window, give or take a little bit. This is our annual On EaglesWings. We did not have one last year because of the pandemic, and we are hoping to have one this year. So fingers crossed that we will be able to do this. So I hope this is familiar with you and that you've seen this before, and kind of hoping that we can agree to close these roads for a few hours.
For the record, same route as previous.
Correct.
It's gone very well the last number of years. There's no reason to say no. So I would move approval.
Second.
Motion's been made by Glenn, seconded by Jamie. Chief Bridges, any concerns from past?
None.
None? Okay. Any other questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? There you go. That was easy enough.
Thank you.
Thank you much. Up next, Ashley Schwering with the Girl Scouts, route information for the Cookie Crumbles 5K. Good evening.
Good evening, everybody. So as you have heard, I'm with Decatur County Girl Scouts Service Unit 702. This is our first year kind of doing Cookie Crumbles 5K. I was a little late sending it to Kristen, so I don't know if it made it into your guys' folder. So our plan is to do the route that in years past, as Champions of Youth now has done for their Color Run 5K. Simply, we're starting at Rebecca Park. We have 5 crosswalks. We'll go over into Charles L. Field Trail, loop around, come back across Northeast 80, head on out towards the high school, Greensburg High School. We'll cross, I believe that's Montgomery Road by Carousel Progress, the Central Avenue, Bearshill Lane, and then Montgomery Road again by Steel Technology, halfway point being at the Moose Lodge, turn around and follow it right back into Rebecca Park. At each of those crosswalks, we plan on having cross guards that are CPR and first aid certified. Some of them are volunteer fire department in Adams, and I'm blanking on the other one that we have volunteers at. So it's pretty much that route, just looking for approval. It's our first go around. Not ideal to be doing it in the middle of a pandemic, but it's kind of just giving it a whirl.
What was the date on that again?
Oh, sorry, Saturday, March 20th. It will start, the kickoff starts at 9 a.m. and we're hoping to be done by 11:30.
And how do people register for it if they would like?
There's a link that is, I actually have a flyer that I can hand you guys. Or WTRE has been a great sponsor. They have the link up on their website. We also have yard signs getting ready to go out in designated places around Greensburg.
Have you run this by with chief and other law enforcement
I've sent him an email. My email has been really funky, so I don't know if you received it yet. But I can talk to you.
I responded.
Okay.
You're okay with the chief? And with the crossing guards, I think it's important.
And each crossing guard will be wearing a vibrant vest holding a stop sign with bright lights.
Okay. So you're gonna be using the trail up to STI, not Montgomery?
Right.
Okay. Jamie, because that was a question we had on the other one from the hospital the other day.
Right,
So
they're just going
the
right
trail.
down the trail.
That might be a good solution in the future.
It is nice.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? If not, we'll take a motion to approve the road closures or crossing components March 20. Motion's been made by Jamie. Is there a second? Second by Dee. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, thank you. Do you foresee needing any law enforcement assistance?
Not as far as I know, but I do.
Sure, just check
got
with
his
them.
contact.
Perfect. Okay, thank you. Up next, Chief Stoermer with the first item on the agenda, resignation of a probationary fireman.
Good evening.
Evening.
Just as, so you're aware, we did, this past week, and his last shift was actually effective at 6 o'clock this morning, have a resignation of a probationary firefighter, Andrew Murphy. He was actually one of the last candidates that was hired, right at 8 months ago. So we now will have another opening for that, just so that you are aware. I can take any questions on that. He took a job in Seymour, Indiana, which is about 20 minutes from his home residence. And he stated to myself and his other crew that it was strictly a distance issue. No other reason for leaving Greensburg.
Maybe it's not a good discussion here, but just I think we had another candidate that we thought was worthy. Do we want to, I don't know, we need to have.
We did have that third candidate that was not, I did not ask for approval of,
Right.
but that we did have that discussion on.
That's why I'm just saying, would we want to make an offer to that candidate, or do we want to redo the interview process?
I think we would probably gonna have to redo the agenda to add a hire, so we would probably do that.
Or, well, if we're going to have another meeting in
That's
March
okay.
8th or March 22nd or something, we could add it to that agenda. I'm just bringing it up for discussion, and then maybe it could help expedite that process.
Logistically, it would, because we're gonna be bringing on the two that were approved at the first of the month. If we could do this at the 8th special meeting, then I shorten that time span up, if it's a possibility to do. Logistically, then we get 3 trains at the same time versus spreading that out long term.
So, are we talking about from this last interview process?
Yes.
Okay.
I would suggest it would be on the fast track.
Right. I'm just concerned if we wait too long, it might not. still-
Correct, and that's, striking while the iron's hot is another possibility. If not, we would have to repeat the entire process.
So we can tentatively target that for the 8th to have on the agenda. And if something changes in the meantime, we'll address that then. Okay. Second item, any other questions for the chief on that? Second item, purchase of a utility bed for the rescue squad.
So it was on the, it's in the CIP for this year. It was $28,000 was approved by the council budget for a rescue style body to be placed on one of our several pickup trucks that we have to take the burden off of our rescue truck and extend the length of time we have it as we're out of room. It also allows us to expand our capabilities into technical rescue and hazardous materials more than what we currently do. I'm asking for the $28,000 amount, and then $4,272 will need to come out of, will actually come out of my general budget. These quotes were submitted pre-COVID, and now with supply and demand of metals and issues like that. The quotes you see in front of you are the most recent, and you do see that they are both above $28,000. balance will come out of my budget that is currently there. No other money will be, needs to be requested. Just looking for
Are you gonna be able to pull that for your budget without?
the 4,000, yes. That'll, well, just under 5,000, yes, that'll be fine. It's the 28,000 seeking approval of.
Any other questions for the chief?
Make a motion we approve.
Motion's been made by Jamie, is there a second? Second by Dee. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay. And third item is service agreement with Honda.
In the last bit, there you should have received an email from myself kind of explaining the Honda contract and the delicacies thereof. This was done in a expedited time frame as myself, Assistant Chief Brian Wenning, and Mayor Marsh, as well as Captain Curtis Lewis, who took over kind of the Honda operations for our Honda administrator who retired, had to negotiate a contract. In my email, which should have been attached, is stating the highlights of that. We went from a 3-year to a 5-year. We did concede 100 hours of special coverage time to be included in that. What was brought back from the last contract did not have an incremental step raise of 1.5 COLA. We did negotiate that back into the contract, so we will have a 1.5% increase thereof. As well, the master services agreement and all they called exhibits or appendixes were employed into one document, hopefully making it easier to read and understand. On page, I want to say section 8 and 8.1 is what we're actually receiving from Honda. So that's kind of the meat and potatoes, so to speak, of how that is. Again, this would be a 4-year contract. Last year's was a 3-year. So they did, 5, I'm sorry, thank you. Negotiate that, and then you see the cost that is the monthly cost, the yearly cost, and where we end up with that.
The last 3-year contract that I don't have in front of me, it didn't have the incremental raise in there at all?
It did not. So we went back, I was able to go back and had all the contracts from when we started in 2008. 2008, that contract had it, the next contract had it, the third contract, this would be the 4th contract, it was gone, it just disappeared. And nobody seems to know why. So we brought that up as kind of a sticking point of, hey, things change over these years that we're doing business in city government. And we had to kind of explain to our, the safety people understood it, but our contract negotiator out of Marysville, Ohio, who works for corporate, doesn't really understand the way that municipalities work versus private contractors. So with some explanation on a phone call, Chief Wenning and I were able to expound upon that a little bit, and he was easily agreeable to that once he understood it.
The other piece, I guess the other question I have for you is the 100 hours of additional service. What's the expectation? I guess what's
So they do 2 shutdowns. They do a shutdown over Christmas and they do a shutdown over Thanksgiving, and the Christmas one usually includes up to New Year's. That is the only time the plant is shut down unless it's for severe weather. That is when they make major modifications to the plant. Currently last year they were increased the weight and the size of their conveyor belt to build electric vehicles. They're going to start to do hybrids and electrics. So it takes a little bit more weight, so they did that. Then we had to have an additional fire rescue personnel there 24 hours a day, for 24 hours a day for those 14 days. So they will get, part of the negotiation was that they were charged $50 an hour for that service currently, and they wanted to see that part of that lumped in. So with that, we were able to do 100 hours, which last year we did roughly right at 200 hours, so it would be about a 50-50, and then with the support and the help of Mayor Marsh, we were able to work in the basically bullets 2, 3, and 4, allowing us on section 8.2 on page 13 that would allow us to bill for non-48 hours notice. They have in the past and continue to do things very last minute, spur of the moment, which makes things difficult for us on the scheduling realm. So we do have some penalty money, I guess, so to speak, built in for that, as well as they'll also cancel at the very last moment once people make arrangements to do that. They obviously have given up their time, so we're able to have a cancellation fee built into that we're able to reimburse our employees for coming in or clearing their schedule, basically the inconvenience of that. And that's for, I guess that's for, I'm not sure if I answered your question or not, Jamie, but that's for confined spaces, that's for hazardous environments when they're doing a lot of welding or cutting in a grease lane or a vapor heavy area that explosion or some type of emergency exists, other than normal duties of what they do out there.
The last piece of that then too is during that time period, I guess maybe this, not the summer as much as maybe around Christmas, are you gonna have trouble manning that? Or I know we have a certain period where we don't allow vacations anyway, right?
Correct. So
during that time period for the most part?
So last year, they spawned additional personnel needed at Christmas time. They called me on Christmas Eve, and within 7 hours, we were actually able to cover that. So knock on wood. Now, is that the norm? Probably not, no. But we do have a history of, and the guys that work there now are of the understanding and know that when their shutdown periods are, it's not much of a surprise. We've asked Honda to give us as much forewarning as possible. Chief Wenning did the schedule last year. We knew about 2 to 3 weeks ahead of time. We had a calendar up for guys to sign up. So we knew if we were gonna have to mandate somebody or things like that, because of our new guys, not everybody's Honda eligible. So it decreases our pool of people that are actually able to go out there. Honda has since allowed us to have non-Honda people out there to do fire watch because it's of a simpler task than running the whole, what they would call the Fire One program, which is fire, medical, hazmat.
Any other questions for the chief?
Like the improvements?
It was quite a project that you and Assistant Chief Wenning and Mr. Lewis took on. Glad to be a part of it, and
Thank you. Appreciate it.
I think we've got an agreement that serves both parties well. I do commend our local Honda folks for their willingness to work with us in the conversations. I can't speak for Marysville, I didn't talk to any of them, but our local people did well by us, so we appreciate that as well. If nothing else, we take a motion to approve the contract for service with Honda.
So moved. Second.
Motion's been made by Rodney, seconded by Glenn. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, thank you, Chief.
All right, thank you. Brenda, do you have a copy
Which one?
of the
The Honda?
contract?
I
Yeah.
think
I do.
it's just a
I
one
think I pulled
signature,
it.
isn't it?
Yeah, it's just one signature.
Is that okay if I sign it
Yeah.
for everybody?
Okay, because they will e-sign it apparently, and then I guess I will get a copy of the e-signature document.
Perfect. Okay.
Okay,
Thank
Let me
you.
know if you need something else.
thank you.
Okay, up next, Jeff Smith, wastewater superintendent, payment application number 3.
You should have received in your packet, KF3 CH and MX bid on the plan improvements. It's for $255.51. They're coming along, cold weather last couple of weeks kind of really slowed things down. Because a lot of some of the work's outside, so they just didn't do anything. They're supposed to be back in Wednesday again, so we started. So they're pretty well on schedule.
Okay. Any other questions for Jeff?
What was the dollar amount again, Jeff, sorry?
$284,055.51.
If not, take a motion to approve.
So moved.
Motion's been made by Glenn, is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Rodney, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay.
I'll bring you the originals when I get them tomorrow.
Okay, thank you. Up next, Ron May, City Engineer, award for contract of CCMG 2020-2.
Good evening. Last month in your regularly scheduled meetings, you opened bids for CCMG 2020-2 project. The low bidder was Dave O'Mara Contractor Incorporated at $206,972.90. Upon reviewing their bid, there was an anomaly in their bid detected. Chris and I discussed this. We determined that the anomaly was insignificant. Among other things, they left out a non-collusion affidavit, but they gave us a different one, and there was also a non-collusion affidavit in the Form 96, so we're well covered on that front. So with that explanation, it is my recommendation that you award the contract to Dave O'Mara Contractors Incorporated.
What's the estimated time of start? I mean, I know we don't really know, but.
Well, the first thing that needs to happen is to get asphalt plants running. We are wanting to get this to them as soon as possible so they can schedule the work in. Their season typically starts on a good year, middle of March. On a bad year, middle of April. It's all weather dependent until it gets warm enough they can economically fire their plant and do the work.
Okay. Any other questions for Ron? If not, take a motion to approve the contract with Dave O'Mara.
So moved.
Motion's been made by Rodney. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Glenn. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Sign here, please. And there's 2 copies of the same.
Here.
That very last line, yes. And I'll fill in the rest of it. And then I will get you a copy. It's already. I'll get one copy of the contract.
Thank you.
Okay, next item on the agenda is the proposal for engineering services at North Park.
The mayor and I have been working on some improvements for North Park, located between 4th Street and 6th Street, and between Carver Street and Park Street. The purpose of the project is to improve the parking situation there, improve the drainage situation, add some better sidewalks. There's only sidewalks on one side of the park, and then ultimately to include some street lighting. So to that end, we have been in contact with FPBH Engineering out of North Vernon. They have made a proposal to do the necessary engineering work for designing parking and drainage along 6th Street, Park Street, and 4th Street. And we have with us this evening Colby King with FPBH. Give him a chance to introduce himself and you to ask any questions that you may have.
Thank you for allowing us to present this proposal to you. As Ron mentioned a couple weeks back, or it's probably been about a month ago, we went out with Ron and the mayor and reviewed the area and came up with some plans and gave Ron a proposal. And I hope everybody finds it satisfactory. I think it's really gonna improve the area and, would add a lot of parking and, beautify the area and improve the drainage, parking, and also, add a sidewalk that would connect all the roads. We also had ADA improvements, as part of the project as well. As Ron mentioned, we're just located in North Vernon, not too far away. We'd really like the opportunity to work more with you guys. We're close by, and we think we can give you competitive engineering services.
Thank you. The proposed plan does include all of that. We've talked a lot about how to fund it, of course. So the initial phase for FPBH is to do 40,000 for Riverboat, which is already budgeted for the year. We sort of use that fund throughout the year to enhance the community through those kinds of projects, and then the remaining 12,500 can be contributed from edit funds. We don't have another plan for the remaining 20,000 in Riverboat for the year, but it does give us a nice round number left in that fund, should something come up that we feel that that's fitting for. The second part of that is how do we pay for the actual project itself. The main driver of that being the Community Crossings Matching Grant, which we just awarded round 2 from last year for. We've already sent one out for this year. So for 2021-2, we would apply to include the streets and the components eligible in this area as that. It's a 50% match. We already have the funds set aside to do our matching for that money. And then anything that's not eligible for CCMG, we believe, and Mark Klosterkemper and I have talked through this pretty extensively, we have funding available to cover the rest of it. So it's an all-in budget already project, unless there's some major unforeseen circumstance, which we don't foresee, obviously. We believe that this whole thing can be completed with already existing budgeted funds.
And we're really looking at 2022, right?
Yes.
The application would go in, typically, it's COVID, no such thing as typical, but the application would go in July for 2021-2, the second round for this year. Likely get notice in August, September of success or failure on the funding. And then a couple of months to get the whole plan put together and get it bid, likely late enough in the season that construction might not happen until spring 22.
We do typically encumber the funds from 2021 to carry us into 2022.
Well, I'm commend you for trying to straighten this thing out. This has been a kind of a problem for a long time, but it's not been ideal for a long time, and this should improve it an awful lot. One question I have is, I know we got parking where it's been typically, the space is there to provide for parking off the street. On Carver, there's no change there, right? I mean, you're basically just gonna be redoing the street, and the parking is parallel parking along the side. And I've not been out there for a long time. This is, that used to be the Ball Diamonds, and I was out there a lot then. But I'm told that now they use it for the football, I think. But is there any way that, and I was only told this, so it's just third hand, I don't know if I'm speaking correctly or not. If I'm not, please correct it. That sometimes parking really, they don't do what you would expect. They run up into the park and onto the tennis courts and areas. They park every which way there. Is there any way that can be done so that the actual parking is parallel parking and not running into messing the park up, basically?
So, sure. So the concept with Carver Street is to redo the street and the curb. So it currently has a rolled curb. That's my engineering terms. Rolled curb that does allow people to drive over it.
Yeah.
Upon replacement, it would be a square curb,
Thanks, Bert.
vertical, see? And that would prevent that. And we will reline Carver Street with parallel parking spots
Perfect. All right.
as part of the
Yeah,
project.
good, thank you.
We also know that when we pave the parking on Fourth and Park, we can stripe those spaces, so we will have much more efficient
Yeah,
parking.
that'll be, yeah, and it should help, that alone should decrease some of the other,
And we do propose a curb on those two sides to keep the vehicles where they need to be.
so the curb would also be on Sixth Street then too.
Yes.
Yeah, great.
Any other questions? I think this is a project that will obviously impact the neighborhood as a whole in our community and could potentially have generational impact. So I would ask for a motion to approve the contract with FPHB Inc. to help move that project forward.
And authorize the mayor to sign on your behalf.
And authorize me to sign on my behalf, on your
I'll
behalf.
make that motion.
Motion's been made by Jamie, seconded by Dee. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Up next, Street Commissioner Mark Klosterkemper could not be with us this evening. He had an unexpected conflict. He was going to ask for permission to dispose of a 2000 International 4700 single axle dump truck by acceptance of sealed bids due April 5th, 2021 at the Board of Works meeting. It will be sold as is with no warranty or conditional guarantee. The truck was replaced in the fleet with a truck earlier this year in January. So it's simply a request to ask for bids. All those in favor of that signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay. Bid away. Up next, a couple things that I would like to bring up. We've been in discussion for a while, since I've been here, about some conflicts and convolutedness of our handbooks that govern employee policy. It's been something that's been through Brenda's office countless times, and we've run into quite a few issues. In all honesty, the handbooks aren't that old, but they do generate a lot of issues. We truly have three. We have one for police, one for fire, and one for everyone else. I am requesting that we engage Kroger, Gardis, and Regas to help us with this. In your packet, you received their engagement letter. It is not a contract, but just an engagement to help facilitate the conversation at an hourly rate to clean these up. They do believe that we can have it redone in as short amount of time as we want, but that a few months would really help us. Of course, as a policy, it would come back through this board for approval. Of course, I would be involved in that, but if one of you, because we can't have three, would also like to be a part of that, that's welcome as well. The contact that I have with them in full transparency is Taylor Hunter, who is the daughter of Greensburg Superintendent Tom Hunter, but is quite accomplished in her years of service doing public employee law and handbook creation. If you're not familiar with their firm, they're a smaller Indianapolis firm with probably about 30 attorneys and do a lot of really good work in this field. Any questions?
No, I'm willing to help if unless others wish, and then I'm willing to step back on that. I know that they tried to do they made three in part because of some uniqueness with regard to police and so on, but eager to see how it could be improved. So.
Any other questions? If not, I would take a motion to engage the firm to help us with that.
So moved. Second.
Motion's been made by Glenn, seconded by Rodney. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, thank you much. Donna Lecker is unable to join us this evening for the Utilities Office. She did ask me to present the civics system contract with you. I believe Brenda's office has already started implementation of hers. This is the twin to the same system that Brenda purchased, but it allows for integration. So it's really just some modules being added on to Brenda's system through the utilities. The utilities do have the funds to pay for this, and you all oversee the wastewater board, but the wastewater component, but not the water component. Donna has provided me with numbers based on amounts of money available. They're significant, so if you have any questions for the actual system, Brenda would be the person to ask, but I believe this to be a good addition.
Yes.
This is going to eliminate a lot of dual entry. Donna's office will download into our system, which is what we were looking for, and I explained when we made our proposal for hours, just the accuracy of lack of human error, and I totally support it.
I have no reason to, I mean, I agree, I think it makes sense that they would have a unified system. My only question is, I know that there's wastewater and utility, or the water. This covers both, right?
Correct.
We're not talking about water doing another, yeah.
Yeah, it's only half of that. They each pay half of that.
Yeah, that's the total.
That's the total.
Okay.
Any other questions? If not, we'll take a motion to approve that for the utilities.
So
Second.
Motion's been made by Dee, seconded by Jamie. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Those opposed? Okay. Up next, I would, a quick update on where we are with our City Hall remodel project. In your docket, you have the first sort of construction payment, I believe, or second, and they have completed or almost to complete demo work. They've started some frame stud, it wasn't in there, we don't have that. Okay, it'll be in there on the 8th, it came on Friday. And some of the stud work have been done, they've removed the whole ceiling and are starting towards putting it back together. They're not quite there yet, but we are approaching that phase. Our conversations and discussions in relationship with CPM, our construction company who's actually on the ground, has been really good, and we've made good progress with them. We also continue to work with DLZ from our architectural and professional service component too. With that, we are sort of approaching our first change order meeting that is all of the things we found during demolition and changes that have been discussed and implemented. We didn't have all of those tonight because we've been working on pulling them together. So I believe a special meeting on March 8th at 5 p.m. would help us solve that. I'm going to be out of town the following Monday, so we can't back it up on Monday. But we also have the 22nd on here, should we need another one before our April meeting. I know somebody's expressed.
I won't be in town on the
You won't
8th,
be,
but
right.
if we could do it through Zoom, I don't know if that's allowed or not.
I'm going to be gone on the 8th. I know I'm going to be gone on the 22nd, and it's likely I'll be gone on the 8th as well.
Okay. If Dee and Rodney can agree to be here on the 8th, that would still give us quorum. I believe we can still do Zoom stuff.
And I'm willing to do Zoom if that's
Okay.
available.
And we may just move that whole meeting to that, if that's easier, because it's simply, well, we may have something for you, but we can do that as well. We may move towards a whole Zoom meeting, we can make that determination midweek. So I think all we have to do is give 48 hours notice in the front of the building that we change it. So we can work on that. It is one of those items with the change orders, we'll try to get them to you in advance, but of course Zoom doesn't allow us to have a very good conversation about them. Most of the things, for lack of better terms, are needed, in the sense that we found this pipe, we need to move it, we have this issue, we need to do this.
Yeah.
Sort of more just the construction, it's not a lot of extras, it's a lot of needs. So just put that on your calendar and we will determine it to either be in person or via Zoom.
So the 22nd meeting, we may not need that at all.
We may not,
We'll know,
just put it on your
we'll
calendar.
know Monday the 8th if we need that one or not?
Probably the next week.
Okay.
And we've expressed to them that we don't like having all these special meetings. But it's sort of that time where time's of the essence, and we've just found these items as we go through. So, any other questions on that? If not, we'll move to approval of the claims. Any edits, corrections? If not, we'll take a motion to approve the claims as presented.
So moved.
Motion's been made by Glenn. Is there a second? Seconded by Rodney. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, and with that, if there's anything else to come before the board, take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion's been made. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Those opposed? Thank you.